In part 5 of this series, we started getting deep. We went into introducing one of the main figures of rebellion in the history of our world. But ironically, though many know of this figure, they don't truly know of this figure. This man is Nimrod, and he is the father of the rebellion against Yahweh. And it is his spirit that is alive and strong in this world today that is leading the world towards this spiritual cataclysm. Nimrod cannot be ignored because it is what he did at Babel that Satan has been conspiring to bring back on this earth again. In part 5, it was important that I explain who he was, and I wanted the introduction to be clear so that when I explained this part, it did not truly take away from the significance of him. I am against Nimrod and his spirit of rebellion. It is his rebellion that is against those who love Yahweh. And because the devil is not going to train you on this, because that will be just him exposing himself, you can understand why there are churches on every corner of this country and spread all around the world, but collectively, the Christian church knows very little about Nimrod, but yet they practice many traditions that stem from him. Nimrod is the father of rebellion, and in order to understand this, we must discuss what happened at the Tower of Babel. So as we continue to wake up to what is going on in this world, we must discuss Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. Let's begin. So as I discussed in part 5, Nimrod reigned securely in the land of Shinar, which is the land of Mesopotamia. This is the first Babylon. Later, there is the Empire of Babylon ruled by Nebuchadnezzar. This is not the Babylon that's being spoken about right now, but it comes from the same land and it's the same spirit, but just don't get confused with them both. This is the first Babylon. It was based in the land of Mesopotamia and ruled by the Sumerians, and Nimrod was king. They built a large tower that we know today as the Tower of Babel. They built it to challenge Yahweh and prove their greatness. This was an empire that was in pure rebellion against Yahweh. They came together speaking one language from which they were able to conspire against our Creator. Again, they were under the rule of Nimrod, who was the leader of this world government. At this time, after the flood, they were the inhabitants of the world, and they came together in order to challenge the dominion of our Creator. Please remember that before this, Yahweh just judged humanity, and they were starting over. Because of Nimrod and his rebellion, they were in union to come against Yahweh and to challenge him. They wanted to ascend into heaven and defeat Yahweh. They all spoke in one language and decided, rather than move away from each other, under Nimrod's leadership, they would come together so they could build a kingdom for their own dominion to challenge Yahweh. This is rebellion. To understand this, we will go back to the book of Jasher. We'll go to Jasher chapter 9. It says, "And King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together. They said to each other, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and in its top reaching heaven. And we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars.' And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words. And the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men. And they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk. And they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin, and they began to build it. And whilst they were building against Yahweh Elohim of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. And all these people and all the families divided themselves in 3 parts. The first said, 'We will ascend into heaven and fight against him.' The second said, 'We will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them.' And the third part said, 'We will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears.' And Elohim knew all their works and all their evil thoughts, and he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it, until those who went up had completed a full year. And after that, they reached to the builders and gave them the mortar and the bricks. Thus it was done daily. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from the hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would even look at him. And Yahuwah knew their thoughts. And it came to pass when they were building, they cast the arrows towards the heavens, and all the arrows fell upon them, filled with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from Yahuwah in order to cause them and in order to destroy them off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. And Elohim said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto him. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. And those who were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called that place Babel, for there Yahuwah confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And this is the story of Nimrod's rebellion. He gathered his kingdom together to conspire against Yahuwah in order that they challenge him. They tried to mount up to heaven to challenge Yahuwah, and this is the real rebellion. And this is what Nimrod put forth and tried to promote. He promoted the world to come together and to try to beat the Most High. And so even though his plan was dumb and it failed, Satan, he never left that desire alone. His goal is to get the whole world on the same plan to fight against our Father. Everything about this current world today is about fulfillment of this goal at Babylon. And so the occult uses what happened at the Tower of Babel as the beginning of the journey towards their ultimate goal. And so you should never let anyone tell you that they don't believe in the Bible and they are against the Bible, because everything that they're doing in this world today is all about this beginning goal, exactly what happened at the Tower of Babel. They are right now fighting against the God of the Bible, which is why they don't want you to believe in him, because they want you on their side. They want you on the side of Nimrod. In Freemasonry, the Tower of Babel serves as a starting point for a Mason's journey, representing a state of ignorance and a loss of the true language of the building, which is later recovered through wisdom found in the Temple of Solomon. The tower is seen as a symbol of human pride and unchecked ambition, a challenge to divine authority. In his book, The Arcane Schools, a review of their origin and antiquity with a general history of Freemasonry and its relation to theosophic, scientific, and philosophic mysteries, long title. Anyways, the Masonic author of this book, John Yarker, writes on page 267, the Tower of Babel was one of the most ancient traditions of Masonry. In Arthur Edward Waite's book, A New Encyclopedia of Freemasonry and a Cognate Instituted Mysteries, Their Rites, Literature, and History, on page 61, he brags, as regards Masonry, Babel, of course, represented a Masonic enterprise. Understand that what you see at the Tower of Babel is what represents a Masonic enterprise or undertaking. It is all rebellion against Yahuwah. So all that this religion of Freemasonry is, and those that are tied to it, they have just promoted the goal at the Tower of Babel. This is what they're doing. And so in this world today, you have the goal of these Masons to build this new world order as they carry on the spirit of Nimrod. They push the symbolism to show us directly who it is that they're worshiping. As I explained in part 1 about understanding the new world order, Freemasonry is inverted worship, and they serve the God of this world, which you will soon see has presented himself through the undertaking of Nimrod. And so their goal is to personally challenge our Father Yahuwah. And so as they claim that their goal, according to Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, they say their goal is the ultimate defeat and extinction of evil. Being that they believe our Father Yahuwah is what is evil, it is Yahuwah who they are challenging and trying to defeat and extinguish. This is their religion. And therefore this religion starts their journey as a Mason at the beginning, where our Father defeated Nimrod and confounded the languages. And they go through their degrees of conspiring against our Father. And to the masses who are not initiated into their secrets, they introduce this rebellion to us gradually while they lead us to participating in their rebellion, because they are the ones who control religion, control our education, and what we know today, bringing you back to part 2 of the Matrix. So as you have been living in this world, you have been living amongst people who are completely aligned to Nimrod, and they desire to bring back his dominion and his rule. They are sympathetic to Nimrod, and they are all about completing what was done at Babel. This is the conspiracy in the world, and it goes back to this New World Order. Nimrod is the example, and in Bible prophecy, these people sympathetic to Nimrod desire to bring this about. And after Nimrod, these people who our father confused the languages, the different empires that sprang up after, they continued on with the goal of rebellion at Babel. In the history and understanding of what happened at the Tower of Babel, you will find the goals that Satan desires to fulfill. And if you understand those goals and what they try to do, as you analyze this world and all the agendas, you can see these goals today, and you can understand more clearly what they are working towards. It's right in front of your faces. So again, what happened in the times of the Tower of Babel? King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. They aspired to ascend to heaven and to fight Yahuwah. This was the first world government never seen again. And once you understand that, you can understand what the people attached to these secret societies are working towards. These men and women in these secret societies are attached to Satan's goal of rebellion. And as they desire to erect this figurative Tower of Babel in a New World Order, this goes back to what was prophesied in the book of Daniel. It's the beast that Daniel saw. In Daniel chapter 7, Daniel's dream was interpreted, and in verses 23 and 24 of the chapter, it explains the fourth beast. It says, "The fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it in pieces. The 10 horns are 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom, and another shall rise after them. He shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings." This is the major Bible prophecy that explains the coming world government. The fourth beast that is different from all the other kingdoms before it, and it will devour the whole earth. That seems pretty self-explanatory to me. This kingdom that is different than all the other kingdoms before it will devour the earth, the whole earth. Hence, we see a world kingdom. And so we have seen them erect this organization of the United Nations that George Bush himself, the first George Bush, said the New World Order will fulfill the goals of the United Nations founders.
We have a real chance at this New World Order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
The United Nations was built for this goal. There currently is an agenda that is calling for more control and governance by the United Nations. This is what we know to be the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, also known as Agenda 21. We have seen events like the Global Citizens Festival that shows that there's now an international government that the population are now citizens of. I speak about this in many other videos as well. I want you to think about it. They hold this Global Citizens Festival every year. What is a citizen? According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a citizen is a member of a state, a native or naturalized person who owes allegiance to a government and is entitled to protection from it. So in order for you to be a citizen of somewhere, there must be a government that you owe allegiance to and are entitled to protection of. So being a global citizen means there must be some form of global government. And this is how subtle they are with telling you what time it is. They are telling you it's here without saying it directly, but our subconscious are being prepared for it. But this is what the fourth beast kingdom will be. It will be a revived Roman Empire, which is why we see the Roman symbol of peace on the United Nations logo, the olive branch. It will be a completion of the undertaking that was started at Babel because it will have one ruler, like King Nimrod. That is why it's the United Nations. It's the United Nations of the world going back to the goal at Babel, conspiring against Yahuwah to come against him. They also will have one main language, which seems to be English, which is why people fight so hard to keep our Messiah's name in the English tongue, not realizing that they're fighting for Babylon. But also they have the technology to transcribe language into your own language. So the technology I think they're going to be using at the Super Bowl is they're going to use that guy, Bad Bunny. he's going to speak in Spanish, but the technology is going to translate it into their own language. This is the new technology today, so they're just going against what Yahweh did. You have to understand their technology is rebellion. You have to understand what you're looking at and what you're seeing. They are creating technology to say that they can overpower what Yahweh did. This is a real battle right in front of your faces. Also, the other agenda with this is there will be a one world religion. Understand, these are all themes from what Nimrod started at Babel the first time. But maybe you want to debate and say none of this is true. But you see, understanding current events would reduce a great deal of skepticism from even the greatest of deniers. Let's understand what has transpired over the past decade. The thing about understanding this is that it helps understanding our current world better. You will understand political issues and why they're being raised, why you see certain agendas being pushed locally, statewide, and nationwide. You'll start understanding the agendas on our television programs and how they subtly introduce this world government to us.
That doesn't sound totally terrible.
Diane, you're not buying this.
Ruby, you don't think that women deserve equal pay?
They deserve more.
And I know you wouldn't let a man talk down to you.
Now, you know ain't no man talking down to me.
And you'd fight for a woman to be able to make her own decisions.
With my fist.
Grandma, you're a feminist.
You'll understand the technology that is being created and why they're even creating it. The mistake that we make is looking at the overall goal of world government, and then we say, because we do not see this full structure in existence yet, it means that it's far from us. For the majority, people are only looking for the end, but not really watching for the progression. The world will not just one day move from the old world order to the new world order by surprise. It one day may seem like that, but it does not happen this way. Along with changing the world structure and getting the legal and political authority with acceptance by all nations, they also need the world population to be ready to accept it. This does not happen all at once, but by a slow process of mental transformation. It is something that is slowly introduced over time that is allowed to marinate in the minds of the world.
The walls between the countries with the most and those with the least cannot stand. The walls between races and tribes, natives and immigrants, Christians and Muslims and Jews cannot stand. These now are the walls we must tear down.
I want to tell you something right now. I wish you could see what I see. Because when I look out at all of this, I say this is how you change the world. You don't have to wait for anybody. You can do it on your own.
We need a movement of global citizens, from world leaders to people everywhere, to help solve the world's biggest problems. I've signed up. I hope you will too, and encourage your own network of people to become global citizens.
But we must act as one.
I am a global citizen.
I am a global citizen.
I am a global citizen.
A global citizen.
So that when major chaos occurs, they are able to easily suggest the solution, and we will agree and beg for it. We saw this very clearly with the pandemic and what the WHO did. You were not able to even speak against what they declared as fact. Another major barrier to understanding this coming world government is accounting for the role of the United States. Because the United States is the major world power right now, and has been for the last 70 years or so, it's hard for many to come to terms with this coming world government without the United States being in control. For many, all they can see is what they have seen for their lifetimes, a world controlled and dominated by the United States. And so it's hard for many to come to terms with a world government run by the United Nations and not the United States. And that's why people love to believe that the Antichrist is from the United States. But this is what bringing in the old world order into the new world order is. In this new world order, no nation would be above another, and no national currency would be above another. All those ideas are ideals of populism, and in the new world order, there will be no place for populism, nations prioritizing themselves over the rest of the world.
And yes, together, we will make America great again.
So in understanding what's to come, there must be a different thought of the role of the United States. The United States was actually built for this. On the back of the United States dollar is the Great Seal of the United States. In the seal, it says, Annuit Coeptis. This phrase, Annuit Coeptis, means He, God, has approved our undertaking. That is directly from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Then after that, it says, Novus Ordo Seclorum. Both of these are Latin. Merriam is a little deceptive and unclear with this. They say a new succession of ages. But that's not accurate because though novus does mean new, Ordo doesn't mean succession. Ordo in Latin means order. Seclorum in Latin is said to mean century or ages. So the phrase actually means new order of the ages. Annuit coeptis novus ordo seclorum means he, God, has approved our undertaking for a new order of the ages. And this is on the Great Seal of the United States, which is also on the United States dollar bill. The tools which will be used to usher in this new order of the ages bear this seal: the government and financial tool. And who is the God that approves this undertaking? They also very clearly show this as they have the Eye of Horus, which is the symbol that goes back to Lucifer. Also, the pyramid is unfinished. The unfinished pyramid under the all-seeing eye also has symbolic meaning, as described by the Treasury Department of the United States government in 1935. It says the pyramid is the symbol of strength, and its unfinished condition denoted the belief of the designers of the Great Seal that there was still work to be done. You see, the pyramid was unfinished because the Tower of Babel was unfinished. The United States was created in order to be the vessel that creates the new order of the ages that Lucifer has approved to be built. And so when you understand this symbology, it then helps you understand where we are going in this world. These people have never been shy about their new world order.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace. An era in which the nations of the world, east and west, north and south, can prosper and live in harmony. 100 generations have searched for this elusive path to peace, while 1,000 wars raged across the span of human endeavor. And today that new world is struggling to be born. A world quite different from the one we've known. A world where the rule of law supplants the rule of the jungle. A world in which nations recognize the shared responsibility for freedom and justice.
It's just the masses that have been distracted, and they ignore it as they ignorantly say they reject conspiracy theories. This undertaking that has been approved by Lucifer is a Masonic goal under the religion of Freemasonry. And being that Nimrod is claimed to be one of the founders of Freemasonry, I hope all the dots are being connected. We are living through the erecting of the next Tower of Babel, and as long as they have our minds tied to their falsehoods and their lies, they will lead you towards it. And the goal of this series is to wake you up so you do not follow them. I want you to understand that there is only one option if you do not want to partake in this coming New World Order, and that is submitting to the true God of Yasharel, Yahuwah, and believe in his son whom he sent, Yahusha. You must repent of your sins and become born again. You must receive eternal life. You must have a personal relationship with our Father. He must know you. Peter says, therefore, since Messiah suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourselves also with the same mind, for he who has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, that he no longer should live the rest of his time in the flesh for the lust of men, but for the will of Elohim. For we have spent enough of our past time in doing the will of the Gentiles, when we walked in lewdness, lust, drunkenness, revelries, drinking parties, and abominable idolatries. In regard to these, they think it strange that you do not run with them in the same flood of dissipation, speaking evil of you. They will give an account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this reason, the gospel was preached also to those who are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to Elohim in the spirit. But the end of all things is at hand. Therefore be serious and watchful in your prayers. That's 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. Listen, Bible prophecy is upon us. And I understand that's easier to ignore all of this and just hope for the best. But this strategy will not reap you happiness in the end. You are just delaying the inevitable. It's easy to write all this off as unfounded conspiracy theory, but that view is clearly based upon ignorance. I'm giving you documented evidence that you can go and look up for yourself. I did not create these events and organizations. I am just aware of them and what they are doing. And I desire that you are awake and aware as well. Everything that you're seeing today and that you're being directed towards is about the rebellion at the Tower of Babel from Nimrod. Nimrod is who these people are serving It is the God of this world. It is his spirit of rebellion that they place inside them, that they teach the rest of the world to rebel against our Father. And what you want to make sure is that you are not a part of that rebellion, and you are not sympathetic to it, and you're not tied to it in any way. So you must review your thoughts, you must review your influences, and make sure that you are not being influenced to be partakers in the spirit of Nimrod and take part in his rebellion. So listen, now that this is explained, we can move on. Now that you understand Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, it is important that I explain to you where this whole agenda led to after Nimrod failed at Babel, because that's not the end of the story. The most important part comes next. So we must discuss the birth of paganism itself. So please, go to part 7 of this playlist and continue to grow in knowledge and truth. Live your life in the truth and stay out of the lies, because the kingdom of Yahuwah is truly at hand. Be ready for it and be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please make sure to like it and share it with others. Please share this with any of your family and your friends that say that they're trying to wake up. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to this channel. Yah willing, I upload every Friday, also now Sunday and Tuesday. Please don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram to find out when these videos are posted. As always, I would like to give a special thank you to those who have donated and contributed to this ministry. Your contribution and your support are a huge blessing to this ministry. Thank you for your obedience to Yahweh's call on your heart. I'm humbled by your support, and I'm very thankful for you. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching, everyone. I love you all.